Now let's talk about different selection techniques that you have in 3D Studio Max. First one is by clicking on the select object and simply clicking on the object within your viewport. Now notice that the cursor or the mouse pointer changes into a plus sign when you are about to select. Okay. Another thing is, while you are in the smooth highlight mode, you have a bounding box around that object that is being selected. Okay. Now if you are in a wireframe mode, then that object turns into white. So your wireframe color is white, and that means that your object has been selected. If you want to select more than one object, you can simply hold down Control on your keyboard and select more than one. Now notice before I select the second one or the third one, I have a plus sign right below the mouse pointer. That means that I am going to select more than one. Now if you want to deselect one, you simply hold Alt on your keyboard and that plus will change into a minus sign. So I want to deselect that one, let's say, or down. There we go. Another way you can select more than one object is by dragging the selection like so. There we go. Now notice that even though I'm not dragging a window or a selection like this and not putting the entire object in that window, I still am able to select that object. However, if you turn the window and crossing, if you turn that tool on, that means that you actually have to put the entire object inside the window in order to select. And here's the difference. If I just drag a selection like this time I'm not going to be able to select that. I actually have to put the entire object on that window. Okay? Same thing for if you let go, you can simply just drag a selection like that. Now, let's go on and play around with the selection techniques in here. I can simply select in a oval shape. So here I can drag a selection like this. Okay, or I can select by cutting. So this time I'm gonna drag a selection like that. There we go. Or I can go ahead and select like this one. I can go left to right or right to left. Another way you can do a selection is by using the spray tool in here. What this means, you can simply click and hold the click and then just go ahead and spray the rest of it. So here we go. We are selecting all of them by just holding the click and spraying all of them around. Okay, now I'll go to the rectangular selection. Another way you can select is select by name. So in here I'm going to unselect and click on select by name. On this one you'll get a window that says select from scene, and in here you get the names of each object. So let's say I just want to select the teapot. I can simply click on the teapot and hit OK, and here we go, only the teapot got selected. I'll go back to that window again, and this time I am going to select more than one. So I'll hold shift down and I'll click to cylinder. Or you can simply just click and hold and select down, or you can go up. So let's say I want to select the cylinder and the sphere. I'll hit OK, and here we go, only the cylinder and the sphere has been selected. Now there are some preset functions in here. If you want to select all, if you want to select none, if you want to revert the selection, meaning that I will select the first two, and if I revert, it will select the bottom two ones. Okay, so you can use all of these techniques to do a selection. Okay, next, let's say we want to actually name our objects. If you want to name the object, you can simply click on the object within your viewport and go to the Modify tool or Modify tab and go ahead and give it a name. So I'll say, let's change the color. I'll make it red. And I'll say this is the red. Red cylinder. There we go. And there's a teapot. Teapot. Green sphere, and I'm going to hit enter. And we already have the purple box. So here we go. Now let's say we want to rotate, move, and scale the objects around. Let's start by moving them. And again, we already explored how you move with a gizmo, going left to right, in and out, up and down, and then you can rotate if you click on the rotate tool. So this time I'm going to go ahead and click on that. I can rotate on the Y, I can rotate on the X, and I can rotate on the Z. There we go. Now the coordinate system down below, which we already showed you, let's go ahead and play around with a pivot point. So let me go ahead and there we go. For the pivot point, I'll come here to the hierarchy and I'll say affect pivot point. Let's go ahead and undo that so it shows. There we go. Oh, affect pivot point. What the pivot point does, whenever we are rotating right now, we are actually rotating around the pivot point. So if we were to change the position of the pivot point and move that up, there we go, I'm going to move the pivot point up. There we go. And I'm going to, let's actually move it all the way to the top. Now when I start rotating, I'll unselect the pivot point. Now notice the rotation looks a little different. See that? So let's actually move that down one more time and you'll see the difference. So wherever the pivot point is, that's how you're going to be rotating. So the pivot point is the point where the object revolves around. And again, let's just do a quick test one more time. I move it up. When I rotate, it actually revolves around where that pivot point is. Okay. Another thing that I wanted to show you is, let's say you want to hide an object. I want to select that and I'll right click and say hide selection. That object is still in there but it's being hidden. So I can always bring that back by saying unhide all. There we go. And let's say I want to freeze an object, meaning that I don't want that object to be selectable. So I can simply click on that and say freeze selection. That means that I will drag and try to select that. You won't be able to select that. So I can always go back and say unfreeze all. There we go. And let's say I want to make a duplicate of that object or a copy of that object. I can simply click on that and hold shift on your keyboard and drag wherever position you like. So I can drag in and out. There we go. And in here I'll choose this time a copy. We'll talk about the instance and the reference in the future. So simply I'm going to say make a copy of that object. There we go. And that's it. So one last thing that I wanted to show you is, let's say you want to group a selection. I'll select both of these and I'll come here and type in cylinders. Okay. Now if I had more than one cylinder, let's say I actually want to create another one, and I'll select all of these. I'll say three cylinders. What this means, even though I'm going to select this and move that around, if I want to come back and select the 3 cylinders, I can simply go to that group and say 3 cylinders. It will automatically select all 3 of them. So this way you can select all of them and move them around. So keep all of these in mind, and hopefully we'll practice those as we go on through the term. But these are some different techniques on how to select, name an object, move, rotate, and scale, work within the coordinates and the pivot points, how to hide, freeze, and make a copy.